The sound of my father being ordered out of his own home stopped my heart. My brother-in-law, finger jabbing like a weapon, shouted, "This is my house. Get out," while my sister laughed from the couch. My mother stood crying, clutching a dish towel like surrender. I froze in the doorway holding a celebration cake, watching my $425,000 gift to my parents, their seaside sanctuary, being hijacked before my eyes. I'm Maxwell. At 37, I've spent my life as both neurosurgeon and family fixer. The child who learned to translate adult panic into reassurance at 10. The one who absorbed that usefulness meant silence about your own needs. The family ATM who finally realized that love shouldn't bankrupt your soul. Growing up, we lived on overdraft notices and maybe next month. As the eldest, I witnessed every late-night money argument, every time mom cried over rent we couldn't afford. My sister Audrey somehow floated above it all. The artist, the free spirit, the one never burdened with our family's financial terror. Dad sometimes worked 3 jobs. I still see him at my high school orchestra concert, fighting sleep in his greasy work uniform, but staying awake for my solo. Mom stretched dollars until they screamed. We ate endless pasta, wore hand-me-downs, and learned never to ask for more. Audrey didn't learn what I did. Usefulness equals worth. I absorbed that love meant solving problems, that being eldest meant being the solution. If I just worked hard enough, saved enough, achieved enough, I could fix everything broken. So I did exactly that. Medical school, residency, neurosurgery. I lived from a hospital locker and suitcase. I tracked life through 4 a.m. pages and operating schedules. I saved almost everything I earned because I remembered being 10 and powerless while my mother cried. Audrey became the person needing rescue. First textbooks, then college tuition I covered, then apartment down payments, just until Griffin's startup lands. When that startup landed squarely on my wallet, I paid for their daughter's braces when insurance fell short. I financed a minivan when banks refused, co-signed leases after evictions. My Venmo history reads like dysfunction's diary. Audrey electric, Griffin interview suit, Sophia's school trip, rent again last time. Every transfer felt like control, like I was sanding down our family's ugly edges, like I was the glue holding everything together. I was catastrophically wrong. My parents enabled too, in their bleeding ways. Mom filled Audrey's trunk with groceries disguised as cleaning out the pantry. Dad lent Griffin tools for repairs that always cost more than they should. The chorus never changed. You know your sister. Not everyone's like you, Maxwell. You were born old. Somewhere. I became a credit card they swiped without considering the balance. When my parents reached 50 years of marriage, 5 decades of sacrifice through financial stress, I wanted them to have a true victory. A place where air smelled like salt instead of anxiety, where floors didn't creak with memories of lean years, where nothing reminded them of coupons or secondhand furniture or fear's bitter taste. I found it between surgeries, a small blue house above coastal waters, slightly crooked but warm. White deck, twin palm trees, windows catching perfect light. When wind pushed in from the bay, you could hear it sing through the glass. $425,000. I'd saved for years. Not for myself. I barely spent money except on running shoes and hospital coffee. I saved because saving felt like armor against childhood chaos. Looking at this house, I finally understood. This was what the money was for. I planned it like a surgery. Methodical. Precise. No margin for error. The deed went into a trust with my parents as lifetime beneficiaries. I prepaid property taxes 20 years forward. I covered HOA fees, replaced locks, stocked the refrigerator. I hid a note in the silverware drawer for late mornings and loud laughter. Love M. I didn't tell Audrey. I told only my parents, 1 week before their anniversary, so they could process privately without drowning in attention. Driving them to see it the first time, Dad touched the banister like a violin he once owned. Mom opened each cabinet and exhaled. This long, slow breath like she'd been holding it 50 years. We sat on the deck listening to gulls, and I simply said, "It's yours." Dad tried speaking, but his voice broke. Mom said it smelled like lemons and open windows. We stayed up late that night, me on an air mattress testing plumbing, them in the master bedroom, finally sleeping where nothing was broken. The next morning, I returned to the city to perform a decompression on a little boy with a tumor the size of a plum. The house remained with them, safe, quiet, theirs. That peace lasted exactly 2 days. Audrey called Mom on day 2. Are you at a beach? Whose house? Mom, a terrible liar, claimed they were visiting a friend. By dinner, Audrey had triangulated the address from Dad's blurry sunset Facebook post. View from our porch, he'd captioned it. That was all she needed. She arrived with Griffin, 2 kids, a dog, an entitlement you could smell from the driveway. Mom called, voice small. They just wanted to see it. Then they said they're staying for the weekend. Is that okay? It's not a rental, I replied. We'll talk when you come down, she answered. And I heard the same exhaustion from when I was 10 and landlords threatened eviction. Saturday morning, Dad texted, some confusion about the house. Audrey keeps saying, family home. Can you come? Then silence. Then a call I missed during surgery. Then a selfie from Audrey in my parents' kitchen, captioned, home sweet home #manifesting. Her friends' comments poured in. So deserved. Beach era. And one from Griffin that made my palm itch where scalpel handles rest for hours. Finally, a place where the kids can be kids. I texted Dad, don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. Love you. Then drove straight down. I rehearsed calming words the entire drive. We'll reset boundaries. We'll breathe. We'll find solutions for everyone. I walked into pure chaos instead. The front door stood wide open, screen banging in wind. Someone else's SUV filled the driveway. Boxes everywhere. Children's cartoons blared from a living room where I hadn't even turned on the television yet. My mother stood in the kitchen clutching that dish towel like surrender. Her eyes red, swollen. My father sat hunched in a chair, shoulders curved inward, hands trembling the way they do when he's furious but restraining himself. Loud voices echoed from the hallway. I barely managed, Mom, when Griffin appeared. Bare feet, beer in hand, football shirt stretched over his stomach. He planted himself before my father, jabbed a finger toward the door, and yelled, this is my house. Get out. From the couch, Audrey laughed. Actually laughed. Relax, Dad. We're just getting settled. The plastic cake container dug into my palm. Something inside me went very, very quiet. Griffin's voice escalated. You two are old. Stairs are dangerous. You'll fall. This is a family house. We're family. We'll manage it. Mom tried speaking. It's Maxwell's gift. Griffin interrupted. He gave it to you. You're giving it to us. Same difference. Audrey didn't even stand. She just smirked from the couch like this was perfectly reasonable. Don't be dramatic, Mom. We'll handle the bookings. Bookings. Griffin gestured toward the view, my parents' view. Prime waterfront. Peak season. I listed it this morning. Easy money. You two can have the downstairs bedroom during off-season. I watched my father's hands shake like when bills arrived without enough money to cover them. This was the same man who worked 3 jobs to feed us. The same father who arrived at my concert smelling of grease and love. Now being told to step aside in a house I'd just given him. I was raised on be useful, not loud. But Dad's text had been a request I couldn't file under later. Setting the cake on the counter, ridiculous among fast food bags and makeup kits, I found my voice. Steady. Surgical. Who told you this is your house? Griffin rolled his eyes like I was slow. Family money, family house. Don't be weird. Audrey added, sing-song, we're not asking, Maxwell. We're updating. Mom's face crumpled. Maxwell, can you just explain? Griffin pointed at my father again with that dismissive gesture. He can explain from the porch. Audrey laughed. Babe, stop. Dad knows we love him. My father's jaw worked. No sound emerged. Something within me clicked into place like a bayonet locking position. Everyone to the living room, I said. Not loudly, just surgical loud. The voice I use when a patient's brain swells and debate isn't an option. The children paused their show. The dog stopped shredding a pillow. Griffin snorted but followed, because people like him always believe rooms belong to them. Standing by the mantel beneath a photo of my parents cutting a supermarket cake 40 years ago, I felt my pulse in my thumbs. I pulled a folder from my bag and laid 5 documents on the coffee table. Deed, I said, tapping the first page. Recorded last week. This property belongs to the Montgomery Life Trust. Lifetime beneficiaries, Franklin and Eleanor, my parents, with exclusive right of occupancy. Griffin squinted at the paper like its words assaulted him. In English, I said, you don't get a key, Griffin. He laughed. Bro, try and stop me. I tapped the second page. Trust instrument. I'm successor trustee. It gives me the duty to maintain this property for my parents' comfort. It also obligates me to remove anyone interfering with that. Audrey's voice turned sugary. Maxwell, You can't be serious. We're helping. I slid over the third document, a color screenshot. The Airbnb listing you posted this morning. Using photos taken without permission. Description: entire home. House rules: no owner on site. Availability calendar: booked every weekend through August. Payout account: ends and digits matching yours, Griffin. I blurred them for the children. Griffin shifted his weight. So what? Your parents could use the cash, man. I placed the fourth document. A printed group chat thread from last night that Audrey didn't know Dad had forwarded. Her message, in gray text: we'll get him on board. He always caves if Mom cries. I'll guilt him about med school loans. So excited to finally have a beach base. Audrey reached for it. I covered it with my hand. I placed the fifth document, a laminated HOA rules copy. I traced one specific clause: no short-term rentals. Here's what happens next, I said. You pack your things today. You delete that listing. You text every person who booked and issue refunds. You apologize to Mom and Dad for frightening them in their kitchen. And you leave the house key on this table. Audrey blinked as though mishearing, then laughed, high and trilling. Or what, Maxwell? Or I perform my duty as trustee. Griffin stepped toward me, puffing his chest like we were adolescents. Duty this. I don't like yelling, I said quietly. I prefer precision. I placed my phone on the table, screen visible. On it, a drafted email to the HOA board with attachments. Another to their legal counsel. A third to the county recorder with the Airbnb link and illegal commercial use flag request. And an open text thread with Curtis the locksmith, currently parked 2 houses away, because I called him from the highway after Dad's first confusion message. Griffin saw the screen and shifted uncomfortably. You wouldn't. I would, I replied. And I already have. Audrey reached for Mom. Mom, tell him. Tell him this is family. Mom wouldn't look at her. She looked at me, voice trembling. Maxwell, do what you need to do. Griffin's expression changed. He pointed to the door again, that same dismissive gesture that initially ignited everything. Old man out, he snapped. I stepped between Griffin and my father. My hands remained steady because I've held human brains that pulse like birds. Point at my father again, I said softly. And the only door you're going through is the one Curtis is about to lock from outside. Silence. Even the cartoons went silent. Audrey tried one final angle. You're cruel. You're abandoning your family. I exhaled slowly. I'm done being your wallet. That's not abandonment. That's a boundary. Griffin muttered. We'll see about that. He lunged for the folder, perhaps to grab the deed or destroy papers, as though legal trusts could die that way. I simply collected the documents, tucked them away, and turned to my father. Dad, I asked, would you like to stay in your living room? He swallowed hard. Yes. Then everyone who doesn't live here, go pack. No one moved. The doorbell rang. Curtis, right on time. The unwinding took 3 hours because chaos always requires more time to dismantle than create. Curtis changed the deadbolt while Griffin performed a quiet tantrum in the driveway. Whisper yelling at Audrey, kicking the curb, calling someone to check the legal thing. Their dog barked itself hoarse. The children moved like embarrassed shadows, stuffing clothes into bags while watching me cautiously. I didn't explode. I sat with Mom making tea in the kettle I'd purchased. She dabbed her eyes with a napkin. I didn't want to tell you. I thought we could smooth things over. They came in so quickly. Said it would be easier this way. No stairs for your father, less cleaning. They'd handle the hard parts. The hard parts are what make it ours, I said gently. She nodded. That small, guilty nod reserved for apologizing for things that weren't her fault. Dad stared at the water. I thought I'd be stronger. I should have told them to leave. You called me. I reminded him. That was the strong part. In the living room, I systematically canceled every illegal booking. Each customer received the same message. Listing removed by owner. Refund issued. I attached the HOA rule to the single person threatening a negative review. I drafted a brief letter to neighbors. You may have seen unusual activity at 24C Spray. There was a misunderstanding. There will be no short-term rentals at this address. Audrey attempted reframing at least 3 times. First attempt, sitting on a packed suitcase with her face arranged into soft hurt. We were just excited for them. I wanted the kids around their grandparents more. You know how much you work. Second attempt, when I didn't respond. It makes sense if you think about it. You're never here. They're getting old. We have the energy. Third attempt, when silence failed, she went for blood. You think money makes you the parent, Maxwell? It doesn't. You buy things so you don't have to be a person. I bought a house for our parents, I said evenly. I didn't buy permission for you to steal it. She flinched at steal, then turned cold. We'll remember this. I hope so, I replied. Griffin refused surrendering his key. Come take it, he smirked, which might have worked if Curtis hadn't just installed a keypad lock minutes earlier. I reached past Griffin, pressed 0-0-0-0 to unlock, then reprogrammed it to Dad's chosen code while Griffin watched his leverage dissolve into sea air. He tried another angle. Think you're clever with your papers? I know a guy. I know the county clerk, I responded calmly. And your guy will tell you trusts beat tantrums. He stared, determining if I was bluffing. I wasn't. When they finally loaded boxes into their SUV, Audrey paused on the porch. You could have just talked to me. I have been talking to you for 10 years, I said. Her mouth tightened. You'll regret this when they need help and you're not around. I looked at Mom pouring tea, at Dad's hand, finally still on the armrest. I am around, I said. For them. They drove away. Their dog yapped from the window like it had opinions about property law. After their departure, the house changed temperature. Same air, yet not the same air. I heard ocean through the screen door. I heard my parents breathing without panic. Room by room, I filled a trash bag with juice boxes, a plastic tiara, mismatched socks. In a guest room drawer, I discovered Griffin's folded business plan. He'd estimated monthly Airbnb profit at 5 times the HOA fine. In the margin, Audrey had written, Max won't say no if Mom cries. I set the paper down like something sharp. Mom kept apologizing for the mess. I kept saying, just crumbs. As sunset approached, Dad took my arm. Son, I don't know how to say this without sounding like I failed you both. You didn't fail us, I assured him. You gave everything you had. We just gave too much to her too long. All of us did. He nodded without argument because truth felt like relief. I prepared a simple dinner. We ate on the deck. Mom told stories about her first apartment with a mouse she named Bernard because he only appeared on Sundays. Dad laughed the way he does when not being careful for everyone else. My phone vibrated constantly. Audrey, you made Mom cry. Griffin, cease and desist, Dr. Boy. An unknown number. Griffin's cousin. We're coming down next weekend, right? Already invited people. I placed the phone face down and finished my salad. That night, I activated the alarm system. I installed a porch camera with a cheerful chime even my parents would appreciate. I put security codes in a folder labeled Happy Things with large letters Dad could read without glasses. I left trust copies, deeds, and HOA rules in a drawer I called Boring Armor. Leaving, Mom stood in the doorway clutching her sweater. I'm sorry it came to this, she said. I'm not, I replied. It needed to. The following week, everything wobbled like a table with one short leg. Audrey launched a campaign in family chats. Maxwell stole a house from the grandchildren. Screenshots arrived from distant cousins. Audrey's Instagram became manipulation masterclass. Blank backgrounds with white text. When money makes you cruel. Then my car in the driveway. Some people think they can buy love. I didn't engage. I built a small wall instead. I called our aunt, the one who speaks truth. I explained simply that the house belongs to my parents and will remain theirs as long as they live. I asked her not to carry our pain as gossip. She replied, finally, Maxwell, and that was sufficient. I sent Audrey and Griffin one email. Polite, firm, boring, 3 points. All house contact goes through me. You lack permission to enter the property. Violations trigger HOA and legal action. I copied myself and no one else. I set it as auto-response to future house-related messages. I promised myself never to negotiate with a story that always ends identically. 2 days later, notification, new booking request. See Spray Cottage. Griffin had relist under a different account using our back deck photo. I forwarded it to the platform's trust team with attached deed and trust documentation. 10 minutes later, listing removed. User banned. I felt no triumph. I felt like a stadium janitor after a game, just completing necessary work. Dad called one morning to say the house smelled like toast and salt, and he'd slept through the night for the first time in months. Mom sent a photo of her feet on the deck rail, ankles crossed, wearing bright pink polish like when I was 5 and thought she was movie star beautiful. They looked lighter. Behind that softness, Audrey kept scratching at the wall. She sent a payment request for emotional damages. She mailed our parents a letter beginning, as your primary caregiver, a sentence never true. Griffin posted a meme with a syringe and $, suggesting I stole organs for profit. Their noise couldn't alter the air in our little blue house. One night, Audrey called from a block number. I answered from either softness or hope. She went silent hearing my voice, then tried a new tactic, whispering, "Maxwell, listen. We're struggling. Griffin lost his contract. We might lose the apartment. The kids." I closed my eyes. There's a point where empathy becomes accelerant. "Audrey," I said, "I will not discuss the house." "So money matters more than family," she snapped, mask back in place. "Boundaries," I explained, "are how I can be family without being a bank." She hung up. I let silence sit like a recovering patient, monitored, protected, painful in a healing way. 2 weekends later, I arrived early. Thermos coffee, stethoscope around my neck from habit. The water had that flat silver quality, resting between breaths. I fixed a sticky door. I placed tennis balls on the garage shelf at perfect depth so Dad could park without hitting the wall. I labeled the breaker box because Dad loves labels. Mom made pancakes, burned the first batch, laughed. We discussed groceries, the neighbor Greta who leaves shells in a fence jar, the pelican refusing dignity. No one mentioned Audrey for an hour. It felt like a clean countertop. After breakfast, Mom touched my hand. "I'm going to talk to your sister." Not arguing, just saying no. "I'm not asking you to choose," I assured her. "I don't want scorched earth declaring winners. I just wanted you to have a peaceful porch." Mom smiled slightly. "It's not choosing. It's stopping the pretense." Dad cleared his throat. "I should have taught that better. I taught work. I didn't teach stopping." "You taught love and staying," I said. "I'm just learning the without being consumed part." He laughed, low and grateful. I walked the perimeter, tightening the gate latch. I adjusted the camera angle. I printed a small entry table sign. "Welcome home, Franklin and Eleanor." It felt sentimental and exactly right. Later, alone on the deck, I considered the headline my sister would write. "I gifted my parents a house and ruined my family." That's not what happened. What happened was I stopped paying the bridge troll. What happened was I made a gift and then protected it from becoming a weapon. I used to believe dispensing money preserved peace. It didn't. It merely silenced noise while resentment fermented behind walls. Boundaries sound louder initially. Then comes a silence no one can fake. The messages slowed. Audrey found new audiences. Griffin discovered fresh hills for tantrums. My parents began saying small no-s that sounded like yes to their own lives. "No, we can't watch the children this weekend. No, we can't drive across town fixing your car." They started saying yes to early sandwiches, to naps, to identifying boats with funny names. A month later, my niece, 16, band shirts and expressive eyes, sent a message. "The house looks pretty. Grandma seems happy there." I replied, "Visit with Grandma's permission. No bookings, just pancakes." She sent a laughing emoji, then, "Okay." A tiny truce with someone who broke nothing. Last night after a late case, I drove to the house needing to see it illuminated from within. Through windows, I watched my father reading. Glasses slipped down his nose. Mom had a blanket covering her lap and a puzzle on the table. Ocean sounds flowed underneath everything like a bass line. I didn't enter. I stood on the sidewalk letting silence explain everything to me. Here's what I understand now. Love isn't covering someone's harmful behavior with your body. It isn't applauding chaos because the person causing it shares your DNA. Love is a house with good light and locking doors. Love is paperwork that holds when people don't. Love means telling your parents, rest, and telling everyone else, no. I am not their bank. I am not their scapegoat. I am not the emergency exit when the fire they set gets too hot. I am their son, a man with work demanding precision. A brother who finally learned precision belongs at home too. If my sister ever wants to stand on this deck watching water with our parents, she can. She can arrive with empty hands and apologies, not business plans. She can be family without adjusting the thermostat. Until then, the house stands. Locks click. Gulls argue. Windows sing when wind pushes from the bay. Inside, my parents breathe easily. That's the lesson. A gift shouldn't cost your soul. And boundaries aren't cruelty. They're how love keeps its porch light burning without setting the neighborhood ablaze. Thanks for listening. And if you like this story, share it with others who might be struggling to set healthy boundaries with family. Don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about finding strength in vulnerability and learning that sometimes love requires saying no. Sometimes the hardest wall to build is the one that protects what matters most.